Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Jade. I'm going to be presenting on the Bachelor of Civil Law degree that we offer here in DCU. So I just have a small PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to share, and then there will be 5 minutes at the end for any questions that you might have for me. So I'm just going to do a run through of the module choices, of the modules that are offered, the module choices, the structure of the course, my own personal opinions of the course and other options and opportunities that will be available to you throughout your time in DCU if you choose to study this particular degree with us. So I'm just going to share this presentation here. So as you can see, my name is Jade Fitzgerald and I am a second year BCL Law and Society student in DCU. So I'm about halfway there in my degree now. I'm halfway through second year. We started back on Monday after our Christmas break. So I'm definitely enjoying it so far, but I'll get more into that as the presentation continues. If you have any questions for me at any point, you can pop them into the chat as I'm speaking, but I will answer all questions at the end. I'll just go through them from the top of the chat box down to the bottom, and you can ask questions at the end as well. So without any further ado, so yes, as I mentioned, 15 minutes and then a 5-minute Q&A session. This is, of course, hosted through Unibuddy. So if you have any questions that you think of after my talk tonight, you can also send me a message through the Unibuddy platform about the course. So the Bachelor of Civil Law degree here in DCU, it's 3 or 4 years long. Most people tend to choose the 4-year option, with your third year being either a full year of placement or Erasmus studies abroad in another European country. Also in the UK, there's a UK option as well. So how university courses work within the European Union is per year you have to work up 60 credits. You work up these credits through a mix of 5 and 10 credit modules. So for example, in first year, I had 2 10-credit modules, and then I had everything else was 5 credit modules. So I can't think exactly off the top of my head how many modules I had last year, but it builds up to your 60 credits. Once you pass all your modules, you get your 60 credits and you can progress on to the next year. And the CAO code for this particular course is DC232. Now, this isn't to be confused with the other law programs here in DCU. DC232 is specifically for the BCL degree. There is a separate CAO code for the Economics, Politics and Law degree, and there is a further separate code for the joint honours. So, why PCL and why did I in particular choose to study BCL? BCL in DCU is also known as Law and Society because not only do you just study law and law as a theory, law as a school of thought, and law as it is practiced within the community and how it operates within the world around us, but how does it also affect society? How does law intersect with the economy, with the government, with social issues? Because social issues dictate the law. Law does not dictate social issues. So, for example, the church had a very large sway in how law was seen in Ireland, particularly throughout the last century. And then as we've come into the later part of last century and we've come into the 2000s, we see this diminishing position of the church in Irish law, except perhaps in the Irish Constitution. But more on that when you start the degree. We also examine how we want the law to behave, and we speak a lot about whether or not we are represented by the law. So, for example, the gay marriage referendum in 2015, I believe 2015 or 2016, and how that has continued to shape the world that we live in, and particularly the country that we live in, as more legislation and more court cases make new binding decisions every day. And they just continue to progress with the world around us. As more change occurs, more change will continue to occur. So it's definitely a unique perspective that BCL, particularly within DCU, has. And specifically within first year, in semester 2 of first year, you study critical approaches to law, where you look at media, art, how news is written, slightly towards the lines of propaganda. Excuse me if you can hear any interference in the background. I should be able to stop that. My apologies for that. But critical approaches to law is definitely something that I think really encapsulates the law and society aspect of the degree. And I think it particularly is very interesting at that second part of first year where you're after getting used to the swing of things, you're getting used to studying, and then you're able to explain, why does the law do this? Why did we push for that referendum? Why is this particular clause present within the Constitution? And as we all know, within the last year, there was a particularly controversial referendum that in fact ended up not passing. So it's definitely, you look at why that might have happened, and that's definitely a unique aspect of this degree. So that's definitely some of the reasons why I chose BCL and DCU in particular. In other universities, there can be a bit more theory based approach and less analysis can be involved, and you're kind of expected to find that level of analysis yourself throughout your studies, whereas it's definitely facilitated a lot more in DCU. The degree is also recognised by the King's Inns and the Law Society of Ireland for further progression. So in case you don't know, if you wish to qualify as a solicitor in Ireland, after you pass a law degree, you are eligible to sit your FE1s. Excuse me. So your FE1s are the entrance examinations to the Law Society of Ireland, where you then continue your training on the route to becoming a solicitor. The BCL programme is designed in a way that when you graduate from this programme, you can progress straight into the Law Society. You don't have to take any extra exams, you just take the FE1s as they stand. So you'll notice when you start the degree, certain modules have to be examined in certain ways. For example, company law has to be examined with a closed book exam. Otherwise, that would not be recognised by the Law Society of Ireland. And similarly with the King's Inns, the degree is designed in a way you would have no issues progressing into the King's Inns towards their own entrance examinations. That's the difference between BCL, Joint Honours and EPL, that the BCL programme is specifically designed with the King's Inns and with the Law Society of Ireland in mind. And if you don't know, you go to the King's Inns if you wish to become a barrister, you go to the Law Society of Ireland if you wish to qualify as a solicitor. So I also really enjoy the experimental and practical learning element of the degree. In second year, so where I am now, in semester one of second year, we have a dedicated moot court module where you literally study courtroom etiquette, the building of your arguments, the construction of your different types of litigation, how you speak to a court, how you address a judge, how you address your co-counsel, your opposing counsel, any witnesses you might have. But more on that later. One of my favourite modules that I've ever studied, actually. There's also critical analysis, both oral and written, through physical presentations, through assignments. Of course, you analyse within the questions in your sit-down exams, and you're definitely taught communication and research techniques to a very high level in DCU. And the lecturers, they're incredibly friendly. They're more than willing to stay back after a lecture and answer any questions you might have. They tend to answer their emails within a very good time frame. We'll say if you sent an email on a Monday, you definitely have heard back by the Wednesday, the absolute latest. And usually they do try to speak to you beforehand. And even outside of the School of Law and Government in DCU, there's a lot of staff on hand in DCU that are available. The registry office, the students' union, the clubs and societies office, that are there to help you with any questions you may have, that you might have about settling into DCU, about different aspects of your course that aren't necessarily academic. Are you finding certain areas of an assignment hard? Do you not know how to cite, for example? So the DCU library has specific resources in order to teach you how to craft an essay and how to cite appropriately for your course. So there's definitely many reasons why I do think the BCL degree is an excellent degree held to a very high standard within Ireland and abroad. There has actually been multiple BCL graduates from DCU that are now working in New York and abroad in the United Kingdom, abroad in Europe as well, for example. But recently there was a graduate of the BCL program in DCU. I believe she graduated about 10 years ago, and she was recently promoted to a partner in the firm that she was working with in New York. So it's definitely, there's no issues in the case of people might be thinking, oh, DCU isn't one of the larger known Irish colleges or universities, but that definitely, this degree is held in very, very high regard. So, modules, as I was previously speaking about, mandatory modules which are accredited for FE1's exams in the Law Society of Ireland. That's in Blackhall Place, if any of you are familiar. And then, of course, the King's Inns, which is actually very near the TUD campus, the TUD Grange Gorman campus. So there are optional modules as well. In first year of BCL, you don't choose any optional modules. All modules in first year are mandatory. So they're all ones that are definitely fundamental and foundational to your learning as you begin your time in DCU. You have moot court, which I previously mentioned. It teaches you litigation. It teaches you your public speaking skills are definitely really enhanced by that module. It's an excellent overall module just to build your own confidence. It really solidifies the idea. This is what, for me personally, it really solidified why I chose to study this degree in particular. I really, really enjoyed moot court. Of course, assessments are done in a specific way so that they are accredited. And then in final year, you can optionally do a dissertation and you are graded on that alongside the rest of your modules. And that is 10 credits, I believe. If you remember, I was previously talking about the credit system within Europe. So that is modules. So moot court, of course, this is actually unique to DCU as a studied module that is worth 10 credits towards your degree. No other, as far as I know, no other university has a specific module just dedicated to mooting. So mooting, if you don't know, it is a mock court. It is a simulation of what a court may be. And it isn't necessarily a mock trial because it can also deal with civil matters. So such as if one company was attempting to pass off a product of theirs as the product of another company. It gives you essential skills for litigation, for if you're ever operating in a courtroom setting, for representing your clients, and there is, of course, direct feedback from your lecturer. Assessments, I've previously spoken on them. They're a mix of exams and assignments. There's a lot more exams than assignments within the degree just for the accreditation purposes. Intra, this definitely has an awful lot of interest in DCU. This is once again quite specific to DCU that within third year you have this option to apply to intra. So intra is an amalgamation of two words, integrated training. So hence intra, the beginning of both of those words, where you spend 6 to 12 months working in an area that is relevant to your degree so you can get that essential experience in as well as your degree. So most people tend to want to go to commercial law firms. I'm not sure if any of you have seen Suits. There's definitely a draw for working in the corporate world. You're also able to go to family law, criminal law, immigration law, the court service, and the public service. So the Department of Justice, the Department of Integration, Social Protection, they would all be open to law students in DCU looking for intra. You need a minimum 2-1 to get into the so 2-1, the degree, you're graded in the degree in a different system. If you get a 1-1, also known as a first, that is the highest degree you can get, equivalent to a H1 or an O1 at Leaving Cert level. 2-1 then is just a step down. That is kind of the grade most people want to have. That is the grade you'll be aiming for. Then you have the 2-2, which is over 60%. It's more than a pass, but you definitely will have slightly limited options for intra in terms of where you might be able to apply to if you don't have that 2-1. And then you have the pass, which is over 50%. So you're able to go into all these different areas. You can also go on Erasmus. You need a 2-1 to go on Erasmus. And I'm just going to finish up by very quickly speaking on student life, and then I will open the floor for questions. So you have societies, of course, in DCU. There are over 250 clubs and societies in DCU. There are sports societies. I am actually the chairperson of the DCU Law Society, so I am in charge of planning all of the events for the year, planning a law ball at the end of the year. If you can see the third picture here in my little carousel, we also plan moot court competitions, which are open to different universities. And that's the middle picture, and our logo there is on the left. We have an active Instagram page if any of you would be interested in looking at it to get more of a feel of the work we do. We also have the European Law Students Association, ELSA, and we have the Free Legal Advice Centre, FLAC. So those are the three legal societies in operation in DCU. These are run by students and they put on totally different events throughout the years. And I highly, highly recommend that you join them. There are other societies. I've listed a few here, but there are over 100 more societies. There truly is something for everyone in DCU. You have clubs then as well. Sports, there's an on-campus gym, there's a sauna in the gym, there's swimming pools, a very large array of different workout equipment. Obviously there's the DCU football team, there's the soccer team, basketball, there's frisbee, ultimate frisbee, we do run clubs, there's a yoga society. There genuinely is something for everyone in terms of clubs and societies, and it is definitely a great way to make friends when you're just starting out. Then you have competitions, as I have previously mentioned. There are moot courts, which are organised by the Law Society. You have negotiation competitions. This is generally run by ELSA, and then the winner of the negotiation competition represents DCU at a national level. You have intervarsity mooting, where you're doing a simulation court against different universities, and it's definitely a great way to get to know other people. So that is the end of my presentation. I'm sorry if it felt slightly rushed at the end. My timing was very, very slightly off. So we have a question from Laura. What are my favourite and least favourite modules to date, and how many lectures do I have per week? So I actually have a lovely timetable this semester. I have about 10 hours on campus a week, which is absolutely ideal. Law is very much so self-directed learning. A lecturer can't put up formulas up on the screen. Like, you're going to have to learn off your legislation, you're going to have to know your case names, you're going to have to know your acts. But it's definitely, the analysis side of things are very interesting. But then in terms of my favourite and least favourite modules, my favourite modules have been moot court, criminal law, and public international law. I personally am very interested in the area of human rights and how, as I mentioned, law is a reflection of society. And of course, when people's rights aren't reflected in society, they're not going to be protected by the laws, as we've seen in different civil rights movements at different times in history. My least favourite module was actually a semester one module, and it was Foundations of Legal Research. But I didn't have an issue with the content of the module. I think it was just more so how it was taught. But this is a very subjective opinion. Like, you could go into DCU and absolutely love Foundations of Legal Research. It just personally wasn't for me. But I also found property law last semester slightly heavy, because property law is still largely based on Victorian era laws. So you're looking at a lot of legislation that began with D and Dow, which was slightly funny, but also a bit heavy when it came to learning off for exams. Does anyone have any other questions? I hope I answered your question, Laura, to the best of my ability. No problem. If anyone is thinking, and I know I mentioned this at the start, God, I'm very close to the camera. You can contact me directly through the UniBuddy platform. I understand it can be a bit intimidating to send a message into an open chat and know that there are other people watching and they're going to read it. So we have another question from Paul. Hi, Paul. If completed in 3 years and results are high enough, absolutely. Your intra or your Erasmus is kind of separate to your degree. It absolutely enhances your degree in a way. I would recommend the extra year, but I understand if you might feel you're a bit old for your year, if you just want to get in and out of college as fast as possible, you absolutely will not miss out on any opportunities. If you have that 2-1 and you graduated in 3 years, you will have no issues with a master's degree or getting into your FE1s. My hours throughout first year, I had 10 hours on campus as well, Rebecca. And then every 3 to 4 weeks you have tutorials. So every different topic within your modules, you'll have a tutorial for them. These are usually taught by a master's or a PhD student, and you're in smaller groups. So in a lecture hall there could be 200 people in the lecture hall, but there's only about 30 of you in this tutorial, and it's a much more relaxed atmosphere, and you're able to just really discuss and find out what is the appropriate way for answering this question. How would you approach it as a master's student? Is there something the lecturer missed that we should know? Do you have a tip for an exam? That's definitely something that's very, very important when it comes to tutorials. So yes, I probably should have mentioned tutorials slightly earlier in this. You should have a tutorial for every topic within a module that you study, and you will. So Laura is after asking, do you find most of the class are extroverts due to the nature of law and doing lots of presentations? Absolutely not. I definitely am quite extroverted. I always have been, but a lot of law nowadays, you're not necessarily in the courts as much as you would have been even just 20 years ago. Many people are more so interested in, and as slightly boring as it might sound, the more paperworky aspects of things in commercial law firms. You don't have to be a massive extrovert to be a person that works really, really well in law. Some of my best friends are super, super shy people, and they have incredibly high grades. DCU staff are incredibly accommodating, like at moot court, as I was previously discussing. When it is your term to do your moot court, the only people in your room are the person that is examining you, your co-counsel, and the two people that you were against. You don't have to worry too much about speaking in front of a room of 200 plus people. They wouldn't force you to do anything like that. So no, the college is definitely very accommodating when people have anxiety or there's just genuine concerns with them themselves. I don't think I'd be able to do that. But saying that, your confidence will grow throughout your degree. The more you learn, the more you throw yourself into different experiences. But no, definitely not. Most of the class are not extroverts. It's about 30-70, I'd put it at. There's very outspoken people, I suppose, like myself, and then there are people, if they were asked to do the presentation about BCL at the virtual CAO evening, they'd have ran the other direction. So I'm aware I'm just gone slightly over time. If anyone has any other questions, I'll hang on for another 2-3 minutes and I'll answer them. If not, and if you think of any other questions, you can reach out to me via this platform. There's loads of information up online. If any of you have LinkedIn, my name is Jade Fitzgerald on LinkedIn as well. And I put posts up on that sometimes as well about different things that the Law Society is doing. I recommend checking out DCU Law Society Instagram as well. It would give you a great feel for how competitions work in line with your academic studies and how that might enhance your CV and your studies as time goes along. But if not, I hope you all have a lovely evening. And I hope my presentation was to a high standard that the BCL degree definitely reflects here in DCU. So have a lovely evening, guys, and take care.